Hello, hello. Today let's talk about Sephiroth. I think this character is interesting to discuss as like a retrospective because, the character's been out for what, maybe 2 years now? And I think when this character came out, everyone felt like this character was going to be really strong. And now, he is arguably probably the second worst fighter's past two characters. Sora's almost and definitely the worst. But anyway, alright, I'm sure you've heard this from every YouTuber before, but it is true. When you like a video and subscribe and comment, the YouTube algorithm says, yo, this video is based. Let's bump this up. So if you want to support me, please consider doing all those for those videos to help make this channel grow and make it so I can keep making videos on YouTube. Sephiroth in particular is interesting because a lot of people like myself thought he was going to be top tier. We were like, oh my god, he has insane range. He can hit extremely hard. His moves are really safe. He has a broken, absolutely disgusting mechanic with one wing. He has this move right here, which sets up whatever you want pretty much. He has a phenomenal shield breaking move with the ability to kill pretty much at zero off of it. So, why is he not top tier? Why in fact do a lot of people in America think this character is kind of weak, kind of almost not a troll pick, but not a solo viable character, not very good in the meta. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that despite all of these insane strengths, he is way too predictable and reactable. I think reaction is always one of these things that is very important. It's one of the biggest differences of offline versus online play, if not the biggest thing, is just react to stuff. So when you look at Sephiroth, anything but what he's doing, you gotta think about the fact that most of his good stuff is in the air. His ground moves aren't that great overall. They have uses, of course. This is not a bad move. This move is useful. This move is ridiculously powerful in the right situation. But compared to this move, his forward air, right? Or his back air, his nair, insane buttons. Those are probably his 3 best buttons, and they're all in the air. But they don't really hit rising characters. I do this, I barely can hit Lucario if I do this. I can't even. I have to fast fall and it's super slow. So I'm forced to pretty much universally versus grounded opponents do this. I have to fast fall it. And if it's a short character especially, I'm gonna have to space like this. Or do this super late. It also does not help that those moves in particular don't lead to much. I hit someone with it, get some damage, whatever. I'm forced to use these slower, reactable, and predictable moves that aren't too rewarding. And if I want more damage, I gotta get a grab with one of the worst grabs in the game. Or I gotta, like this, right? Even then, that's not much damage. Or I gotta land a nair, which requires me to get very close up. Good DI also really limits the ability to get combos off of that as a rising move. As a falling move, it's very strong. But still, then I'm short hopping and falling, right? So my rising threats are really weak in a game where I think rising aerial threats are massively important. So that's a big deal. Next thing talking about is side B. I think this move in particular, people thought was one of the best moves. We're like, oh my god, kind of like a transcendent projectile that goes very far. It's also kind of hard to tell how far it's going to go, to be honest, which is really strong. And the setup line. Oh, you get 3 orbs in someone? Oh my god. They have to deal with this. I got the pressure whenever I want. But there's a few major weaknesses with this. One is his move so thin. You have to have the right height for it. So if someone's jumping or you're doing this in the air, it's so hard to hit people with this, and so easy to whiff. Secondly, it's negative on hit. This is actually massive, right? So hit someone with this orb, and they can pressure me. -10. That's enough time for characters to dash in. And keep in mind, Sephiroth has slower buttons in general, so being negative on hit at a range where people can dash in and press buttons, really bad in every matchup. So that's a big deal. Next up, these orbs have a really obnoxious property. They always send the opponent away from Sephiroth. Even if I do this, always sends away from Sephiroth. And I think there's setups to maybe take advantage of that. I think they're super niche because you need to probably basically cross them up at a very certain time, so you can basically jump towards them as they're getting hit by the orbs. And granted, it's still strong enough to have the orb circling the opponent, essentially guarantee a hit, or them to use invincibility somehow and force a timer them. But because the follow-ups in the orbs are really hard to make super useful, it feels like this move that's wow, it's supposed to be amazing, but it's not. It's intentionally undertuned. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the character. You have that, and then you have his neutral B, which is like, you can use this for mix-ups in theory, but in practice, not really, because it's just when you throw it, it's so slow. If you like, you can shield cancel this, jump cancel it, sure, but he once again lacks the best ways to punish people avoiding this, right? Because you can react to the throw of this. If you're trying to like do this and like cancel with the jump. Which also is kind of hard to do, to be honest. I'm not practicing this, to be fair. But like, that can be really like hard to pressure. I'm so bad at this. I blame my control setup. But like, that's not particularly fast. You can like kind of react to someone jumping with that and still not hit them. So he's kind of forced to like play with a very couple key moves instead of projectiles, which I feel like were supposed to be a huge part of his kit. And so now he only has a few moves he can particularly use in general. They're not the most rewarding. Finally, can't talk about this character without talking about his size and weight. One of the lightest characters in the game, one of the biggest characters in the game. He is combo food. He dies very early, potentially. He gets hit by like everything in neutral. Like, pretty much everything works in this character. It's actually really funny to combo this character, because it's like, oh, I'm comboing heavyweight, that dies sub 100. So he has all these major weaknesses, and then like his strengths also end up not being as strong as expected. His recovery is good, but he needs time to charge this up B to make it particularly good. So if you can go out and hit him fast, you can edge guard him pretty easily. If he has to charge this, that's a huge window to hit him potentially. Granted, once he has that charge, like, it's really hard to contest. You have to get like the right angle, and it's just awkward. But like a strong but not super amazing recovery. When he has wing, sure, a lot of that issue in particular is, I feel like, compensated for. Like, he shouldn't be getting edge guard with wing, honestly. It's super hard to do that. And of course, even with his more linear frame data moves, the mobility you get from wing lets him like run up nair in particular and get like much better conversions off of it and just pressure better. But then he's, of course, almost a kill percent because he has wing, unless he's super down. At that point, he's super down. So while it's a broken mechanic, it's balanced by all these other attributes. Yeah, it just kind of feels like the devs like knew this character in theory was busted, and kind of had the same fear as I think a lot of people did when we saw this character, where we're like, oh, this is gonna be too overtuned. And then, granted, he's not a bad character. I also think the fact that a lot of the good characters in this game are characters that have very fast, very good frame data. Because I think this character is very well versus zoners, right? Characters that are a bit slower, don't have best approach tools, want to play that like mid-range, he's very strong versus. But those characters just aren't good in Ultimate. Granted, he's kind of one of those characters, right? So it's like he's good versus characters like himself, but characters like himself just lose to stuff like Cloud, Roy, Fox, you name it. So in a different game, this character would actually be insane in my opinion. Or in a different like set of like patches, character metas, you name it. The last thing I'll add is this character's advantage state is really awkward because he doesn't have great juggling tools. I have this happen all the time where I'm playing like a Sephiroth, right? I'll fast full air dodge towards him, and look at the hitboxes on his up smash, right? First of all, it's a slow move. Armor's busted, by the way. But it's also like, if you like fast full air dodge towards him and you're a shorter character, you can actually just land like in the blind spot of up smash. Like, this doesn't anti-air nearly as well as you'd expect. Super laggy, super committal, or like up tilt. Hits very high up, but doesn't hit wide. Like, it's very thin, so it's very easy to drift past this, even with slower characters. What about up air? Well, super slow, so it's reactable. It does cover a nice range, but if he short hops it, puts him in a lot of lag. He frame traps landings with this okay, but not great because of his frame data. And he full hops this, still in landing lag. So it's just like, he can't really up air and like frame trap super well despite the hitbox being massive. So he has to force out air dodges first. Meaning a lot of characters can kind of just land from above and make his life and advantage much harder than most characters. I feel like Sephiroth should look using like narrow hold advantage state, but then it's like he's gonna lose a lot of downers, actually. It's weird. In a game like Ultimate, where I feel like the ability to convert damage off winning neutral is more important than the neutral itself, this character is an insanely strong character in neutral that can't reliably push it well enough. I think the only place he pushes his advantage particularly well is the edge guarding, which is very relevant. It's actually like huge for the character, but not every character can really be edge guarded, nor can you get an edge guard setup in every situation. Where having a reliable juggle game and ledge trapping game is something more universally exploitable and easier to set up. So yeah, that's why I think Sephiroth didn't really live up to the hype and the potential. Granted, he's still a good character, right? You know, Ken won Nash with him, Tweak's done work with him, Ned has done work with him. But even then, they're all trying other characters now. Like, Ken is playing more Sonic now, and struggling a lot with Sephiroth versus top players. Tweak basically dropped Sephiroth and just playing Diddy Kong. Ned is going back to using Pokemon Trainer and Cloud more. So they've all kind of given up on the character at the top level, and that's a bad sign. We have so many talented players saying, yeah, no, we can't make this work. But yeah, just interesting to think about. You can give me your thoughts, I guess, in the comments below, and I'll catch you for the next one of these videos. Bye-bye.